Hi. So for this vlog, I want to touch on the author's relationship with her mother. I kind of addressed it a little bit in the Facebook post about like the myth and like how her mother is kind of mysticized and like like how what the author's perception of her mother is. And I just kind of want to elaborate on that. So I want to take a look at the third paragraph on page 17. It starts off with total strangers would turn to her in the meat market and ask what she thought about a cut of meat as to its freshness and appeal and suitability for such and such. And the butcher, impatient, would nonetheless wait for her to deliver her opinion. Obviously quite a little put out, but differential. Strangers counted upon my mother, and I never knew why. But as a child, it made me think she had a great more deal of power than in fact she really had. My mother was invested in this image of herself also, and I took pains, I realize now, to hide from us as children the many instances of her powerlessness. Being black and foreign and female in New York City in the 20s and 30s was not simple, particularly when she was quite light enough to pass for white, but her children were not. So first off, in this paragraph, the first few sentences just kind of talk about how strangers would turn to her mother to ask for help, and like people would ask for her opinion. And like as a child seeing this, the author explains how she never knew why, but it made it look like her mother has a lot of power, which I think is instances for like a lot of kids and just like a lot of people in general. Like if you're with your mom at a grocery store and people are coming up to her to ask her for things, and people are asking her for help, you're like, wow, like my mom must be some kind of superhero, you know? And I think that's what the author was feeling. She felt very protected and safe with her mother because all of these people seemed like they respected her and like needed her throughout their lives. So after the author goes on to say that she had this like image of her mother and like she didn't know why, she goes on to say that now that she's older, she says, my mother was invested in this image of herself also and took pains, I realize now, to hide from us as children the many instances of her powerlessness. So to me, the sentence is basically saying like she owned this image of herself and put out a front to other people to show like that made strangers like approach her and kind of portrayed her as this a different person than who she really was in order to protect her children and to hide them from kind of just like the truth of society and to protect them from the prejudices that they were going to face at the time. Um, to me, she's just kind of putting on a mask, and that's like a theme. Obviously, a theme of motherhood is a theme here, and it just shows, just in this instance, what a mother would be willing to do in order to protect her children. And then this paragraph ends with saying, being black and foreign and female in New York City in the 20s and 30s was not simple, particularly, sorry, I can't really say that word, when she was quite light enough to pass for white, but her children weren't. So viewing that sentence alone is super, super hard because obviously, like, this mother is going to do anything to protect her children, and she's going to like obviously growing up in this situation is hard enough, but she knows that they face more like prejudices than she had and that she ever will. And so I think that she tries to protect them from just like everything that's going on, especially because later on in this page, the author mentions how people would spit on them sometimes, and her mother would say like, "Oh, those people have no manners." Alone, like they just like spit everywhere, and the children believe them because going back to the first few sentences of this paragraph, it says how like they just viewed her in such this idolized way, and like they thought that they would be respected because she seemed like she was very respected, but at the same time, like she was just doing all this stuff in order to protect them because she was light enough to pass for white, but her children weren't. So she was doing all of this for their benefit. I mean, and her own as well, but mostly like just like to protect them as well.